Hi guys. Yeah, so I decided to make a type me video due to partially laziness and partially because even though I've been reading well as much as I can actually as much as I have time for on MBTI on Jungian functions, uh, I Jungian functions, I guess. I still can't quite get it. It still doesn't click for me. I'm not sure whether I'm just dumb or I'm not getting something essential. Not sure. I don't know. But I still have conflicting uh, internal, let's say, resolutions. No. Um, Well, yeah, conflicting, let's say, like internal examination results, if you could call it that. So uh, I still can't decide, and these are like these vary wildly. It's like I can't decide whether I'm an ISTJ or an INTP or ENTP, since I've also got that. Um, and I've tried several different tests, and well, there were better ones and worse ones, but I guess I haven't been able to get a consistent, conclusive result in any of them, and the problem then becomes that once you read a bit about Jungian functions and MBTI, you start to you start to answer the questions on the tests with a preconceived notion of what the answer should be, if that makes sense. So if I'm fairly confident at any given time that that I am a particular MBTI type, then I'll start answering questions. Well, subconsciously, I guess I try to be as objective as I can. Um, but I guess you can never get rid of some kind of internal bias towards a certain option once you see yourself as a particular type, which I have no real problems with, and I'm able to see the ISTJ and the ENTP in me, which is bullshit, but whatever. So, I've decided to give John's 25 question test a try. I did do it, well, I think a couple of times, um, some while ago, a long while ago, um, and it gave me, I think, then it was an ISTP or something. I don't remember, ISTP or ESTP, some kind of STP. But yeah, I decided to do a type me video in the convention that I'll be answering the questions from John's test, and at the same time, I'll go through my rationale and what I'm thinking uh, about these questions and how I'm answering them. So maybe I if I give out some additional information, maybe that'll help um, anyone who's interested to actually type me. Right, so let's get on with it. First question: social interaction comes to you naturally or with effort? Now, this is the kind of question, like off the start, that I really don't like, because what does social interaction mean? I mean, every kind of person to person interaction, or like human to human interaction, is social interaction of a certain kind, I guess. So does this mean any social interaction? Does this mean social interaction with strangers at a party, with strangers in a group of within a group of friends that you might also be able to befriend a lot easier, I guess, than, for example, during some kind of I don't know, in a club or whatever. So although I have no problems like talking to even like slightly familiar people, not even mentioning friends, because it's like no brainer. I don't have really any problems, or it doesn't cost me any effort to talk to friends. Um, on the other hand, if I were to like I don't know, chat up with some kind of group of people that I don't know, yeah, I guess that might take some effort, and it might maybe stress me out a bit due to a lot of things. I actually suspect, but maybe it's not the case. I suspect I might have social anxiety of some kind of low, um, 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 low key social anxiety. Yeah, whatever. Um, so I'm going to assume that social interaction in this case means that uh, it means social interaction with new people, like with new groups at parties and so on. I think that's like the kind of standard stereotypical question that you would ask someone you wouldn't really ask, I guess, if somebody has no problems talking with friends. I mean, if you have problems talking with your friends, I don't think that's actually a personality, a typology issue. I think that's actually some kind of well, deeper personality issue that you would have to work out, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, so I'm gonna go with effort. It costs me effort to chat up with new people. You are better at learning abstract concepts or facts and procedures. Now, huh, I always say, and at school when I was still in high school, I did have a huge problem with learning history and geography, mainly due to the fact that it was so many rote memorization. Like, you know, you have to remember the where which country is and what's the capital of that country, and all the rivers in my particular country, Poland, and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, fact facts. If those are like we can call those facts, then I guess it's fairly difficult for me to remember. Uh, I do tend to, when I describe something, for example, from the past or some kind of past experience, I do tend to describe more of the flow of things, like not exactly what was said word to word or what happened, or you know, if somebody shook their hands or did some kind of gesture or whatever. I think I mainly describe the plot, let's say, and not the actual constituents. So yeah, I mean, uh, that, and I also tend to describe, I tend to remember more of how I, in maybe not interpreted, how I, uh, how kind of how it made me feel, so to say. Um, Trigger word. Yeah. So, uh, for example, it's like somebody asked me if I saw this in this movie, and I'm like, oh yeah, I did. It was a long time ago. I don't remember what it's about, but I know it was amazing, dude. You have to watch it. And yeah, that's kind of what my recommendations of movies look like. It's like, yeah, I don't remember much of what it's about, but it was really great. Or yeah, but it was sad at the end or something, or it made no sense. Had an ambiguous ending, whatever. Yeah, that's so I guess, and I, I think the same goes with other concepts. I mean, for example, math and physics. I never tended to. I mean, it was a pain in the ass to actually memorize formulas. Uh, I think I always try to gain an understanding of why that formula comes about, so that in the future, if I don't remember, I'm able to derive it from scratch. I mean, it tends to get more and more difficult once you get into advanced math. But I mean, yeah, deriving, let's say, I don't know, the quadratic formula, for solving the quadratic formula. I mean, that's uh, I'd rather know how to do it from scratch than just remember by rote, by heart, the whole determinant and so on. thing. So I'm going to go with abstract concepts here. I don't really like memorizing stuff, and I rather remember, well, yeah, I guess concepts and higher level stuff than like the nitty gritty details of what happened, where, and what is what. And I've really um, I have a horrendous memory to and let's say attention to details too. I mean, uh, as a programmer, I tend to do projects, and then it's like, this, there's a bug here and here, and I'm like, oh shit, that was a stupid mistake, just a tiny bit of detail missed or something, and I just didn't think of it. I just went with the overall um, project description and requirements, but then I didn't kind of even think to delve down into the very detailed stuff, and how every single interaction would work and so on. So yeah, it's tiring as shit. I mean, I have to do it, but I really don't like to. I think I would rather just design systems than actually create them, at least not at that level. So yeah, I'm gonna go with abstract concepts. Uh, Question 3. It's frustrating when people don't consider others' feelings or the facts. Yeah, this is going to be a short one. If you don't like to keep to the facts and you think that your feelings mean anything when you're spewing bullshit out of your breathing hole, then yeah, I don't really want to talk to you, and you can just go away, or I'll go away, whichever. Yeah, I really hate people that kind of try to play on emotions to get their word, or whatever it's called. Actually, sorry for my English and for maybe not stuttering, but like taking longer pauses or something. It's not really my native language. So yeah, as much as I do have a lot of experience speaking in English, it's not at like, that lightning fast level where I can think of the words that I want to actually convey. So yeah, and I tend to be a nitpick with words. I try to I try to speak accurately. I mean, if somebody tells me something, and I take it kind of literally, or at least, well, I take it, the words at what they mean, and then somebody means, but yeah, I meant something else. I'm like, yeah, then say so, instead of saying something completely fucking else. So yeah, facts, definitely facts. I don't really, I mean, yeah, it's not that I'm a robot or something. I get upset when somebody gets upset, kind of. Maybe that's some kind of empathy or something, but it depends on the situation. If it's somebody getting upset over something that I said that I know is factually true and isn't really either, it's neither, insulting, or some kind of, or horrific, or whatever you would call it, and somebody just gets upset because it's not, it doesn't fit into their worldview or something, then yeah, I get really annoyed, because it's just senseless. I mean, what the hell? What kind of point is there to discussing a matter when you're just gonna get emotional and try to win over your opponent, let's say opponent, or conversation partner, using that instead of just logic, facts. When you make plans, you follow them consistently. Yeah, hell no. Oh shit. Yeah, no, no way in hell. I mean, I do make plans. So that when you make plans, that it kind of is like, yeah. Um, I try to make a lot of plans, or rather, huh. I when I when I get into something new, or I tend to notice that I don't have enough time for everything. So there's work. I try to cook for myself and not really go go out due to well, nutrition stuff and so on. I'm trying to just drop a bit of weight and exercise. So yeah, that's another thing. There's, you know, there's language practice. There's calligraphy practice, which will probably last for another months or weeks, whatever, and then I'll find something new. But it's always something. I mean, I don't really ever get bored. I don't understand when people say they get bored, and I'm like, well, how about doing something to not be bored? Like, I don't know, go read something, go do something. There's a whole shit ton of things to do. There's like, you know, 100 lifetimes wouldn't be enough for you to develop and you know, even acquaint yourself with all the things that are there to know and to discover. And then somebody goes and, yeah, I'm bored. And I'm like, wow. I don't know whether to pity you or to envy you. Yeah. So right, when I make when I make plans, um I try to. I tried, you know, different stuff like bullet journaling, getting things done, all that kind of crap. But in the end, I think, well, I do a simple Trello board, something like GTD, but it's not that strict. I just try to, you know, mark things off, and I wrote a Trello randomizer thing because Trello doesn't have that. It would be a nice function for Trello to have, or any kind of like organizer app like that. Tell if you know about something like that, please let me know. That lets you like, it has a random button, and it's like you have a list of tasks, say 20 tasks. You don't really know which one to do. They're all semi equally important, and then you're like, well, shit, you have two options: either kind of force yourself to prioritize and pick something, or just give up. And I tended to do that second a lot because I'm like, well, I can't really decide, and fuck it, it's not worth it. So yeah, close. uh and that when I wrote that mini, you know, random task app, it kind of saved my it saved my planning a bit, since I was actually able to get shit done for at least a little while, and then stuff happened. But yeah, anyway, uh it's hard for me to follow a plan consistently. I'd rather just do stuff when I have time for them. So for example, if I have to practice, well, let's go with calligraphy this time, then, you know, it's just whenever. If I have time in the morning, then I do it in the morning. If I have time in the evening, then I do it in the evening. Sometimes I forget for 3 days. Yeah, that happens. It's not nice. And then I'm like, whoa, shit, how much time has passed? I mean, I haven't done, yeah, and then I'm screwed. Oh, I mean, you know, that kind of practice isn't that bad yet, but if you're doing language practice with an SRS, a spaced repetition system, then if any of you have any experience with that, you know how hard it is to get back on track when you have, like, you know, 100, 200 items, vocabulary items on your list to go through, and it just takes a horrendous amount of time. So yeah, I don't follow my plans consistently. I'm really inconsistent with. Okay, so you favor the path that is more conventional or unconventional. Now, the, on one hand, it also kind of, I guess, depends on how you define conventional and unconventional, since, you know, conventional may be that it's like a time-tested, you know, traditional way of doing things. On the other hand, conventional may just mean like doing something by the manual, I guess. Um, I'm a bit of a mix-up here, since I don't really care for manuals and tradition just for tradition's sake, or just to have a manual. That said, I do like to have some kind of guidebook, I will admit. I mean, a lot of times I try to do stuff on my own. Like, is it, there may be a 50 better ways to do something. Like last time I was putting silicone around my sink, and I'm like, yeah, I might just try to wing it. And I did try, but then I failed miserably, and then I went on to watch some YouTube videos, how to put silicone on it and whatever. And there's the thing is that conventional stuff, if it doesn't make sense, then yeah, I'll whatever, I'll try to do my own thing. But sometimes these things are just time tested, and they're done for a reason. And if it does have an underlying reason that it's efficient, or it will prevent something later on if you do it the right way, like whatever, um, then yeah, I'll do it like that. I have no problems. I'm not like a contrarian that it always upstream. Sometimes I'll go downstream, just to make life a bit easier, but only if it makes sense. So same goes with programming practices. I mean, uh, well, actually, if I had to go downstream with programming practices, I'd still be a cowboy coder, since that's like 95% of the industry. Yeah, fix your shit, programmers. But yeah, um, but that's why I like to read professional literature. And if I try to get into something, into a topic, I also try to read some stuff on that, just to, get different points of view, get to know what different professionals in their field, people that are, held to, that are said to be, let's say world class in their particular field. You can just learn a lot, and sometimes you innovate on that. But being a beginner, it's really hard to innovate once if you still don't have the basics down. On the other hand, if I don't have anything handy, or I'm in a hurry, yeah, I'll just wing it. I'm like, yeah, okay, let's get it done, whatever. And if I screw it up, well, too bad. I mean, there's always a next time, almost always. I guess there are times when it would be good to have some guidance from the start. I mean, particularly if it affects, I guess, other people, since if you screw up, sometimes really bad shit can happen. And if you don't think things through properly, then, there's teeth gritting and crying and so on. But luckily, I don't think I've ever had that bad of a situation yet. I did have a lot of screw ups in my life. Uh, but mostly minor ones, something that people forget about later on. So yeah, uh, I still don't know how to answer the question. Yeah, you favor the path that is more. I'd go with conventional. I mean, it's an ambiguous question. If it says if it would say conventional, uh, provided that it makes sense, then yeah, I'm 100% for that. But either way, let's go with conventional, whatever. I mean, you guys are gonna type me based on my responses to in this video, not on the 25 question test. So it's great. Question 6: are you more imaginative or realistic? That depends. I tend to be more imaginative about stuff that I guess don't really matter, It's like I won't be making a laser cannon to blow up the moon anytime soon, or like do some kind of mecha Hitler riding T-Rex stuff, or whatever you see in memes. Um, about imaginative people, like creative artists, or somewhat, or I guess it was a bit based on stereotypes about ENTPs too. But yeah, uh, I wouldn't really say I'm a creative person, although that it's said that creativity can be developed. It's not something that you're born with, or it's more nurture than nature, I guess. Um, am I more imaginative than realistic? No, I think like when it comes to real world stuff, I try to be realistic. Although I do sometimes have ideas like, oh, this would be great to have or something, but then it always it's either almost impossible to do, or it never ends up getting anywhere. It's just like a 1 second idea that I throw out, and then it's, yeah, whatever. I would probably be a millionaire by this time if I actually could implement at least half of the ideas I've had so far. Tell me what you think about um, a ceiling light air humidifier, because a lot of the air humidifiers I've seen are like just standing ones that you put on the floor or on your windowsill, like the inside of your, yeah, whatever. Um, and the thing is that since vapor is well dense, more dense than water, uh sorry, than air, it tends to just go down, and you don't really get the full effect of the humidity that it might provide. I mean, it does humidify the room, of course, but it's not to the full extent. And I was wondering whether like some kind of ceiling humidifier that would be integrated into your ceiling light would be an awesome idea. But it's just something. Yeah, but let's go with realistic here. In small groups, you are usually one of the most talkative, relatively quiet and restrained. Yeah, in small groups, that's again, if I'm in a small group of newly acquainted people, then I'm not really that talkative. I'd rather listen, and then if something interesting pops up, excuse me, if something interesting pops up, or somebody touches on a topic that I have some knowledge about, anything. Oh shit. Yeah, sorry. I have my mic here, but it's kind of unstable. So, um, if yeah, if I have any kind of tidbit of knowledge on something, and it's a topic that interests me in any way, I'll try to throw in my 2 cents. And yeah, that's kind of my my modus operandi. I mean, I'm not really talkative in groups of strangers or even semi-strangers, but the more I know people later on, like when first you have acquaintances, then you have friends, then you have maybe, I don't know, best friends or something, and anywhere on the spectrum, between those points, um, I the longer I know people, and the better I know the group that I'm with in any given time, I think the more talkative I am, the more quips I'll have, the more comments, and the more like I'll have more feedback, and kind of just make witty jokes, at least try to make witty jokes, or puns. Yeah, I love puns. Oh my God, I would be such a dad if I had kids, but I don't. Yeah, I'm dad jokes for the win. I think those are the best kind, like stupid puns. I don't remember any kind of English ones, like from the top of my head. But yeah, I just love them. Okay, so in small groups, you're usually, I guess, since it tends to the my talkativity would be dependent on how well I know people, but either way, I think I have the trend is to be more talkative with time. I'd go with one of the most talkative, since yeah, I really do waste my throat a lot. I'm gonna be hoarse after this video, you'll see. Or maybe not. I'll probably not make another video for several years unless I have to. You usually work first and then play, or play first and then work. Yeah, that's easy. Play first and then work. I have such huge problems with getting work done. I mean, seriously, I mean, I'll do anything. I'm a procrastinator. I'll, watch YouTube videos on my hobbies. I'll make food. I'll even wash the dishes or something. I'll just spend time reading shit that I'm not really ever gonna pursue ever again. But it's when it comes time to like really get into the zone and focus. I mean, I'm able to um, at times when I'm maybe on caffeine and good music. Oh, that really helps. I mean, trance and chill pop, those really get me into the zone, and it's like it's a switch sort of. If some, well, not most, not always, but a lot of times it works on me like a switch, and then I'm able to actually get in the zone, get things done, focus on work. Otherwise it's HDHD or ADD, whatever. I still don't know the exact difference between those two. I probably have to look it up. So yeah, play first, definitely. Is it worse to be scatterbrained or stuck in your ways? uh I don't like either, to be honest. Mm, although, if people were to judge me, I guess they would call me scatterbrained more than stuck in my ways, since I have problems with paying attention and listening to stuff and things that people told me like 5 minutes ago, and then I'm like, and then I ask a question about something, and I'm like, I just told you that. Yeah, I was even once at an exam session, and the guy's the what's it called? The, whatever, the guy that takes care of the whole exam uh, and kind of sees to it that nobody cheats. The proctor, I think that's what it called. That's what it's called. Yeah, a proctor. So yeah. Anyways, the proctor goes on about the rules and so on, etc., etc. And I'm just sitting there, half listening to him, and I heard him say something that was ambiguous, and I started thinking about how to phrase the question best so that he's able to understand and give me the answer I'm looking for. Not the answer itself, but like the that so that he understands what I'm asking about and he gives me the answer to the question, and not to his some kind of under other interpretation, since that would be a kind of a waste of time, I guess. And we were in a hurry then. So yeah, I started thinking about that, and meanwhile he goes on, and when I catch a pause, I raise my hand. He goes, yes, and I ask the question, and he's like, I said that 2 sentences ago, and I'm like, oh, okay, sorry. Yeah. On the other hand, I my dad tends to be sometimes, well, I think both of my parents, for example, I mean, those are the people you kind of know best, at least at this point in life, when I've um, spent well, now like 2/3 of my life at home so far. Then yeah, it really annoys the hell out of me when you know you put out a perfectly constructed argument to that would you would be pretty sure that could cause a change of ways in someone. For example, I don't know, you do something inefficient, or you do something that doesn't make really sense, or you tend to, for example, rely on some kind of fucking health gurus or whatever. Yeah, I mentioned that once on a Reddit post, whatever. Yeah. Um, and you tell them, I mean, that's kind of bullshit, and you don't say it like that. I actually like tell them, this is the research, this is what it says, this is the conclusions, and it doesn't really make sense to do what you're doing. You're just wasting your time, wasting resources, wasting money, You know, it's not my problem really. It's their life, but it's, you know, on the other hand, I just, I guess I try to help them because, well, they're my parents. You know, it kind of um, annoys me when anyone, especially someone close to you, kind of, you know, wastes their resources, whether it be their time or money or other stuff, on things that don't make sense. But then, you know, it's like, oh yeah, and they just keep on doing it. Yeah. So yeah, we actually once I had a major fight with my dad since, you know, I read somewhere that like the restaurant standards and so on for refrigerators and freezers are so and so degrees. I think it was 2 degrees for the refrigerator, 2 to 4, and it was -18, I think, for the freezer, which is like a standard. But the freezer was minus, I don't know, 10 or something. I don't remember. It's an old thing, but anyway, you know, and I'm telling them why that's the case. I tell them about, you know, um, the slowing of bacteria growth and so on, and how freezing below a certain temperature actually is a lot more beneficial, even though it's just a couple of degrees. You know, it's like 55 and 60 degrees tends or 60 and 65 tends to make the difference between you getting salmonella or not. I think it's somewhere around that, but you get what I mean. You know, it's like thresholds. So, and yeah, we had a major fight because no, we won't change it. It's always been that way and it's been good. So, yeah, but and I'm like, well, fuck it. I tried, you know. But I have to compliment them. They 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 did set the temperature lower that time. But I'm getting off track, and this video is already 37 minutes, and I'm like not even halfway through. Is it worse to be scatterbrained or stuck in your ways? Stuck in your ways, definitely. I mean, it's annoying to hell. I don't like scatterbrained, but I'm, you know, I can understand, I guess, since that would be the same as saying I don't like myself, which is also partially true, at least certain traits of myself that I would like to change, but that's self-development, I guess. You tend to speak rather literally or figuratively. Um, I think literally. I do throw in some metaphors here and there, you know, analogies. I like analogies just to make things easier to understand or to really visualize what I'm trying to convey. But I would say I'm more literal in my speech. I don't really. Um, I guess it's just the thing that I don't want, or yeah, I wouldn't like there to be ambiguity in what I said. So if somebody were to call me out, they are going to have to call me out on exactly what I said and on the meaning of what I said. That's pretty literal, since I try to be accurate with my words, um, or precise. Accurate or precise, I know there's a difference, but one is like repeatability, and the second is the being on point. I think it's actually accurate. Yeah, whatever. But either way, literally. Are you more sensitive or impartial? Oh, Jesus Christ. I hate that. I really hate that question. What does it mean to be sensitive or impartial? I mean, yeah, I try to be objective, it's, if that's what you mean, or if I'm, you know, if I were to be a judge, or what kind of occasions do you even have to actually determine that? I mean, okay, I don't know, let's see, two friends fight, and let's say one is like a closer friend and one is uh, a less close friend. And what does that mean, that if I were more sensitive, and or for example, if one of the friends, I don't know, put on a sob story of sorts, or played on emotions, or had, you know, like had me understand where he's coming from, that would that make me more sensitive? And if I'm impartial, does that mean I don't really give a crap and just base it on their actions? But wouldn't that then be like a short-sighted thing to do, like just based on what has been done and said? uh, I mean, you know, sometimes there are some circumstances in the background somewhere that you would like to, or even have to take into account before passing judgment. So, and I guess I, it's, yeah, maybe it shouldn't be. I don't really like that about me, but I guess I'm kind of more biased towards people that I like. So it's easy for me to kind of take a side a bit. I don't think I'm always like the perfect judge, or in the middle if there's something happening. On the other hand, I mean, if there's actually like rightful criticism towards a friend from any kind of person, then I'll join in on that person if it's, you know, justified. Yeah, I'll to hell with it. I mean, yeah, you're my friend, but you know that guy's right. Yeah, that is, yeah, that is screwy. Whatever you're doing at that time. Okay, let's see. Let's go with sensitive. Either way, I think you work better with a deadline or in your own time. Yeah, so let's try to speed this up a bit. In my own time, I've mentioned that I have problems with procrastination, and a deadline kind of keeps me on track. So, you know, if I know that I tend to do things so and so long, because although I do procrastinate, I know kinda I know how long certain stuff takes to do. Then, you know, I'll just kind of guesstimate it and give myself just a small buffer, and then if I have a deadline, I'm like, okay, this is going to take 8 hours. I have a deadline till tomorrow, so I have like 2 hours more, and then I'll really start going with it. And I actually do. I keep to most of the deadlines that I have. Uh, and although it's kind of stressful, it really helps me stay on track. So deadline it is. You rely on more on your force of will or emotional strength. What the hell does that even mean? What is emotional strength? Does the fact that I do not know what it is mean automatically that I rely on my force of will? I don't think so. I mean, I might be relying on it and just not have the association, emotional strength to whatever Simon's relying on. And yeah, I'm gonna go with emotional strength. My interpretation of that phrase would be, for example, uh, external motivation. So, you know, you get motivated, you get pumped for something, and it's like it's that in the moment thing where you rely on, for example, you persevere because you know you're motivated and extra super, you know, whatever, you got a kick in the ass, and you just go. On the other hand, force of will would probably be that kind of, you know, more drawn out kind of thing where you know, you don't really want to anymore, but you know you have to, or that it's beneficial, and you have that strength of will that just keeps you going. That said, I don't really think I have that strong of a will. I mean, yeah, it depends on the circumstances too. I mean, sometimes it's really hard to do, not just because of lack of will, because I don't think I really have a problem with that itself, but uh, sometimes that's not enough. For example, uh, even dieting, I would be able to go probably on any kind of diet, really. Um, I mean, as long as it makes sense. I'm not gonna go on some fucking fruit detox or whatever. Yeah, but I would be able to take up any kind of sensible diet. But then, for example, there's also kind of itty bitty um, grinds with my wife, for example, who's well, she would hate not being able to taste so much stuff that there is to taste, and to eat like, you know, kind of the same thing pretty much every day almost. I mean, I know not all diets are like that, but some kind of automatically force you to do that. I mean, I just ask most of the bodybuilders there. They, you know, the chicken and rice and broccoli is maybe a myth, but you know, it's pretty consistent, and it has to be, I guess, if you're going to treat food as a means to an end instead of an end itself. I think that's where the difference is. For example, my wife treats food as the end. So like I mean, yeah, I love good food. I'll eat a hamburger any day, um, but I guess I would, if I know that I have an uh, over encompassing or something like that, you know, goal to achieve, then I'll start treating food as just you know, a process to get there. And if it's eating chicken, broccoli, and rice and supplementing or something, yeah, I'll do it, whatever. So I'll go with force of will. You tend to live in the moment, visualize the future. This is also somewhat weird to me. Maybe I don't really understand the question well. So I do kind of live in the moment. I mean, I do think about stuff in the future. I have, you know, I have kind of quasi plans of sorts, but you know, I never keep to them. It's like, yeah, I'd like to go on, I'd like to be, uh, I'd like to be like completely self-sustaining without a job, or something, whatever that's called, like, you know, not have to work to survive by 40. But you know, I'll probably never, well, maybe not never, but I'll probably not get there in that time frame, since I'm not really doing anything towards that. It's like some kind of, um, well, there's this goal I have in mind, and I would also like this sometime before maybe 50 or before getting old. I would like to experience this too. Fell again. I would like to experience this and this, and you know, but when that'll happen, I have no clue. So, you know, I guess I visualize the future in that sense, that um, I kind of have ideas for the future, and I know what I would like in the future. But to say that you know, I do anything more than that, I would probably be too much. So yeah, I kind of live in the moment, and as much as I do have kind of different plans, I forget about them due to just getting shit done now. I don't know. I don't. I I guess it would be to say I adjust my future plans every year or so, depending on what my current situation is. So, and not the other way around, which it I guess should be, at least in the type of world we live in. That, you know, I have a plan for the future, and you know, consequently, and what's the word? Uh, yeah, I think it's consequently, with consistently. I just, you know, go for it, like year after year. I'm going to achieve my goals, like, you know, whatever, the American dream or something like that. Whatever, which isn't really a dream anymore, I think. I don't know. You tell me. You tend to, yeah, I tend to live in the moment, I guess. What's more appealing, harmony or success? Okay, I'm going to assume that that means one at the cost of the other. So if I were to prefer harmony over success, or success over harmony, which would I choose? And as much as I would like to be successful, you know, okay, maybe, yeah, who wouldn't would be a bad question. I mean, there's probably a lot of people that wouldn't like to be successful for different reasons, but I would like to be successful. Yeah, I mean, uh, having that kind of appreciation, you know, respect among your peers for some kind of achievement, or that kind of this is the thing that I actually would like more than achievement by itself. I mean, achievement among your peers or something is okay, but I think what I think I would really like in life would be to have that kind of wow factor, if you could call it that. So, you know, something like, yeah, you meet some new people and you literally tell like some tidbits from your life to them, or whatever you're doing or whatever you're good at. Yeah, you know, and they're like, wow, that's cool. Tell me more. That is the top of my bucket list, I guess, to have that kind of wow factor, to be not even really respected, but being able to wow people with what I do, what I've achieved, and so on. Not the achievements themselves. It's more of a yeah. I don't think it's even a matter of respect. I mean, you don't really get that doesn't automatically equal respect, although a lot of times it does. But I guess having that appreciation, or or I can't find the word. Yeah, whatever. Uh, on the other hand, if that were to cost me, for example, friendships, if that were to cost me like half of the people I know now due to, I don't know, because see, if you want to be successful, you have to kind of trade people a bit. It's even recommended, I think, in uh, I think it was in The Magic of Thinking Big, by, I don't remember the author. Sorry, but yeah, it's a pretty popular book, The Magic of Thinking Big, and one of the hints, I guess, that you could take away from that book is to basically throw away the friends that are keeping you down. So if you know, sometimes I know that's a fact. You have ambition, you have goals in life, and you also sometimes have that group of friends that kind of, you know, they're well, it's harsh words, but you know, they're losers. They don't really care. They work mediocre jobs with mediocre pay, doing mediocre stuff, not really having any kind of influence in the world. And they don't really think much of themselves and what they're doing, and what they plan on being. And yeah, the basically the takeaway is get rid of them. Like, swap them for some cool friends that'll, you know, pull you up, that will motivate you, and you know, like it's like when you I kind of see it as when if you want to go from low or middle class to high class, like you trade your middle class friends for those high class friends so you can rich laugh together. Ha ha ha. Yeah, like that, you know. That was. I'm not really a good actor, so excuse me. Uh, yeah, I I don't think I would be able to do that very like on, you know, at the drop of a hat. I did, for example, have some chances to move to another city. Maybe it's not harmony related per se, but uh, you know, I had the kind of the looming inevitability that if I move to another city, I'll probably lose most, if not all, of my connections here, because I tend to ghost people really fast. I mean, if somebody doesn't keep contact with me, then you can be sure that like in a year or two we'll be strangers. Yeah, it's sad. I sometimes when I kind of reminisce, and I think at how many, you know, different friendships I've lost throughout the years due to just not being able to keep up, and not really even. It's not that I'm not able to. It's just that I don't think about it. It's, you know, I have somewhere in the back of my head there's the awareness, that that I do have that friend, for example, in my hometown, with who I really, for example, like to meet up often in the old in olden times, but then it's like I forget about it, and I never actually write to him, and then he actually like just stopped writing altogether to me too, and yeah, I guess that just happens with maybe not everyone, probably not everyone. It's not fun. So yeah, if that's an element of harmony in that you keep up friendships and so on, uh, I mean the changes I just talked about were inevitable. I mean, you know, I had to go to university somewhere. Not there wasn't anything like that in my hometown. Um, and I do kind of keep up with my friendships over here relatively well. I'm not the social butterfly type that goes and oh hi, how's it going? You know, we've seen each other last week. I bet a lot of things have changed. Yeah, no, you're still probably doing the same thing, and if there's anything new, we'll catch up in a month or whatever. Keeps falling. Sorry. We'll catch up in a month or whenever we meet when we go for a beer or something, you know. And then when you go for a beer, that's the cool thing, that when you go for a beer, then you're able to go from like 6 p.m. to you know, late night, and just talk about stuff and life and whatever's happening at that time. uh yeah, I would go for harmony. You're more mindful of the future or the present? Can I say the past? I don't know. Is there a third option here somewhere? Let me select all. Select all. No, never no hidden option. Yeah. Um. No, it's hard to tell. It's neither, I guess. But if I had to choose, it's more of the present. I think, like I mentioned, I mean, I think about the future sometimes, but I guess there's uh, there's more that I think about related to current stuff and my current hobbies and stuff that needs to be done, and you know, plans that are in the near future. But I'm assuming that the future means like some kind of distant future, 10 or 20 years from now, which I'm not even sure I'll be alive by then, but whatever. I mean, I'm not sick or anything, but you know, I could be dead by tomorrow. Who knows? You're able to control your temptations. Yeah, that's really hard for me. I mean, it's not a difficult question. It's just I'm not really good at controlling my urges and so on. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of a, oh, that sounds fun. Let's go do it. Or, you know, if I have a craving for something, then I try to, but it's like the rationality is that I know it's not beneficial, for example. Otherwise, it wouldn't really be a temptation, would it? If it would be beneficial, you don't really get tempted by vitamin supplements unless you're addicted to those or something. But you know, I think that the connotation of the word temptation is something that's not beneficial for you or society or whatever. So yeah, I'm not really able to, not for long at least. I try to because I know that it's not beneficial, but then a lot of times I just give up or give in. Do you perform better under pressure? although although I do perform better with a deadline, I don't take that as the same thing as performing better under pressure. Deadline is a different kind of pressure, but under pressure, for example, under supervision, during a work interview, that's kind of the first thing that jumped to mind. Uh, Answering a technical question during a work interview, or you know, doing something uh, when somebody's watching, even though you're skilled at whatever you're doing, you know, be it whatever, constructing something or writing something, if somebody watches me do it or something depends on how I do it, I automatically kind of try to I tend to overthink it or get stressed out and, you know, get shaky and so on. So I don't think pressure is the best influence or the best stimulus for me in terms of uh, in terms of performance. So yeah, no. You more naturally offer people solutions, commiserate with them. Okay, this one I have to check. Sorry guys, but uh, what does commiserate mean? Express or feel sympathy or pity. Sympathize. Feel or express. Now, yeah, okay, this is gonna be easy. I offer solutions. I really don't. I I, I don't see myself being able to just go and, oh, you know, somebody had a bad day or somebody's going through a breakup or having relationship problems and they're crying, or, you know, somebody got fired and yeah, and I'm like, oh, that's too bad. Well, you know, I'm here for you, blah blah blah, whatever. It's it achieves nothing. Why would you do that? You're just adding another person to the sad people list instead of trying to get that other person to the happy people list. And there's almost always a way to do that. Just have to think. I think just expressing pity and not doing anything is kind of mental laziness, in that, you know, it's the same thing as tagging pray for whichever country just went through a catastrophe, like, you know, I don't know, recently, some month or 2 months ago, it was the earthquake in Japan again, and, you know, pray for Osaka or whatever, and earlier it was different kinds of countries and cities and people, and you're like, yeah, what does that do? Yeah, you hashtag pray for someone or whatever, and yeah, I mean, I don't get it. I really don't understand it. It achieves nothing. It's just a spam. It's just a filler that makes you feel good that you've done something when you really haven't done anything. And instead of offering the solution or some kind of tangible help, tangible form of help, you just go ahead and, you know, pray for people. That's really helpful. Yeah, offer people solutions. Making decisions, do you tend to favor what should work or what has worked? Now, see, this is the place where I go back to the guideline manual traditional stuff. Uh, if I don't have time, if I'm pressed for time, or a lot of times I just wing it just because mm, I don't really give enough of a crap to make sure that I'm doing it according to some kind of standard or the best way possible. I try to I try to think of a solution myself. Um, so if I see that something's like semi simple to do, and I relatively quickly I'm I'm able to relatively quickly get a hang of how to do stuff. So if there's, you know, some kind of, I don't think I would really need that much detail in the IKEA manuals. Let's say that would be a good example. In terms of what should work and what has worked, I mean, if it's what has worked and it makes sense, it's the most efficient thing you can do, or at least, for example, I don't get any kind of idea about how it could be more efficient, then yeah, I'll go with that. But if I don't care enough, or I'm not kind of satisfied, and for example, if I drop on some kind of external source, you know, that I've read somewhere, then I might try to use use the knowledge I have to solve the problem that lays before me. I mean, um, even simple psychological rules sometimes you see stuff that doesn't make sense due to whatever knowledge you've gathered in different side information on unrelated really topics, but then you kind of connect the two and you're like, well, you know what, but based on what I know about this could be better if you transport that concept to whatever you're doing right now. That said, uh, I think I'd go with what has worked. It depends on a lot of things. If I'm pressed for time, if I care, if even on whether somebody's reviewing what I do, and I can kind of sense or I get a feel for how they would react to certain stuff. I know whether to do it um, like my own way or whether to do it like by the book, because otherwise they'll be pissed off. Yeah, so let's go with what has worked. Emotions influence your actions almost always in certain situations. Well, not almost always. Definitely not always, and I don't think almost always. I think certain situations would be the right answer. I think emotions tend to get the better of most people, at least at certain times in their life. So I can't, I would never say that I have complete control over my emotions and they never influence my actions, since that would be bullshit. I would be lying, to the camera. Uh, but I do sometimes get carried away due to emotions or whatever I'm feeling at that current moment. Mostly it's mm, it's stress or anger. Like, then I kind of act out a bit, I think, but that's in certain situations. I don't think I'm really that angry. I I'm a bit stressed out maybe, and I have sometimes I'm like snappy or whatever you could call it, but otherwise, I think it's not that often. You describe yourself as a more factual, as more factual or speculative. Uh, I think I'm factual. I mean, I like to speculate on how, whatever different concepts, and if I'm talking to a friend that really gets it, we could go on and on. But I think I tend to return to a point where it's been fun. It's like, oh yeah, it would be so great if this or if that and so on, and then it's like I'm kind of the buzzkill, and I say, yeah, I mean, yeah, that would be great, but too bad it won't ever be possible due to, for example, that and that and that. So I think uh, or another interpretation of the question, which I think is more correct now that I think of it, is that mm, whether I speculate on what has happened or what is happening, or whether I count on facts and only facts, like interactions between people or some kind of situations, and you start um, you can either just rely on what you can see and what you can know, or you try to speculate, oh, probably this happened, or oh, it looks like something has happened, or yeah, it reminds you of something, and you just speculate. In that case, I would go with speculative. It's like the first thing that jumps to mind is you just have some kind of reference or anything, and you just, yeah, you see a situation and you're like, oh, this must have happened. So speculative. You're more likely to be too trusting or too skeptical. I'd go with too trusting overall. I am skeptical in certain situations, but I think that's just life experience. I've been to India. I mean, sorry guys, if there's any Indian watching, I love you really, but the in terms of like the street salesman there and the tuk-tuk or the yeah the motor rickshaw drivers, no way, no way, dude. I will not trust those for a second. um you know, like the normal regular people, yes, very much, especially if you come by to talk to them or ask them for help. Most in most any country, India included, I mean, they'll help you full heartedly. But I've learned to not trust people that come to you with an offer. That means that they're going to have more interest in that offer than you, and that's a red flag for me. But outside of those cases, I'm really fucking gullible. You know, if somebody says something to me in a serious tone and it's fair and it's not outlandish, I don't really get why people troll like that. I mean, okay, I guess it's kind of maybe fun, but what's the point in having someone believe something that's not true, but it's completely realistic? I mean, you know, you ask someone, um, you know, what happened, and he gives you this description that's completely not true, but it makes 100% sense and is logical, and you know, it it could really happen, and you don't even have a doubt that it could happen. It's very very realistic, and you like believe it, and then and they're like, yeah, of course that happened, and I'm like, well, sorry for being sorry for trusting you, I guess, you know, if you're giving me some kind of stupid facts just to entertain yourself or whatever. Yeah, in those cases, I'm too trusting. I believe people off the bat. I think that my default is to believe what somebody says to me. And if I catch a red flag or a hint of insincerity, or something doesn't make sense, then I, you know, tend to delve deeper and ask questions until I get a straight answer, or discover that, you know, he can't keep his story straight. Too trusting. Your workplace is usually cluttered or organized. Cluttered. That was fast. Yeah, I like the idea of a clean workspace. I really do. It's not like that I wouldn't be able to work in a on a perfectly clean desktop, like, you know, just a maybe a pad and pen somewhere. I really like the idea, but I'm never able to keep it that way, or even organize it that way once, like in regular intervals. It's There's always some stuff there, whether it be some kind of glasses, or, you know, or paper wrappers, or papers, or some kind of sheets that I'm going to throw out, or crumpled up stuff that I've been working on and that's not really relevant anymore, but I don't care enough to go throw it out to the trash immediately. That So yeah, cluttered. Last question, guys. Hopefully, when you eat, because I know that, you know, the test tends to give you, you know, further questions if it can't determine unambiguously what your type is. When you eat out, you usually go to the same places or try new places. Um, isn't that circumstantial though? I mean, what if you're in a place that doesn't really have a lot of new places? Would that mean you have to, if you were to go by that, that you always, or at least usually, try new places? Wouldn't that automatically mean that you're going out less frequently? Since otherwise you would always go, or most of the time you would go to new places. That said, I live in a city that, well, at least like every week or 2 weeks, there's something new opening. Maybe that's not often, maybe it is. I guess it depends on your viewpoint. If you're living in New York or somewhere, then I guess that's like, whoa, what kind of shithole do you live in? But if you're in some kind of countryside, or suburban neighborhood, whatever, then it's like, wow, that's often. So if there is a new place to try, I do tend to get to it at some point. I don't think I was never anti trying. I actually sometimes like get sick of the same old place, and I'm like, oh, this new place open. Let's go there. Let's see what's good. So I go with try new places, and it gave those five five new questions. All right, I'm a tough one apparently. Meeting a new person, you first might try to probe how he thinks or connect to his emotions. Yeah, probe how he thinks. I mean, if I talk with a person, I don't care what you feel like internally. You can feel whatever you want. I mean, that's your personal thing. But how you think carries out on and what you're basing your views, your world views, and your kind of behavior on, I guess, depends majorly, I guess I would tend to say mostly, on how you think, how you process information and whatever people tell you and say to you. So if I notice that somebody is being a complete dumbass, where you know uh, you just can't kind of get through to him or her or them, I guess, I don't know, then it's really hard to have a conversation from there, since it's like we think on completely different wavelengths. You don't get me, I don't get you, and we'll probably have a very hard time understanding each other, to say the least. In the worst case, we'll just have an argument or fight. um, so yeah, if I see someone that's kind of completely blinded by ideology, for example, to be blinded by ideology, you have to have a certain way of thinking. Excuse me. If um, if you have that way of thinking, then that you tend to be blinded by an ideology. I think that's that it's a common theme in certain ways. I see it in, not to insult anyone. I've seen the goods and the bad, the good people, or the good members and the bad members of every society that I've kind of have had contact with. So I see the same things, whether it be, for example, vegans, whether it be anti-vaxxers, whether it be religious people of all religions, I guess. There's common themes that you could that if those themes ring out to me during a conversation, I'm like fanatic. Whichever, wherever you are, you can always be fanatical about something. And that point where you're fanatical, that means you have lost the ability to really think things through, and you've lost the ability to be skeptical. And if you don't have that, and you're not able to, then that carries out mm, on different areas of your other areas of your life. And that just basically means that you don't really internalize, or you don't really accept information from outside of what you already know, unless it conforms to your current worldview. uh, so I probe how that person thinks, definitely. And if I see that, maybe it's not, it doesn't have to be a fanatic. If I see that he's easily, what's the word, kind of falls for I don't know, scientific bullshit, pseudoscientific bullshit, or like healing stuff, like those kind of miracle energy healing, like parapsychology, so on. Yeah, I don't think we would have much in common, because at some moment in time I would call that shit out, and then we would get into a fight, because of course that person has a completely different way of thinking about it. And it's like, why are you so skeptical? Can you do this, or can you prove that that it doesn't, or so on. I'll leave the conversation on the topic of burden or of proof for Never. For never, yeah, I guess. I'm not really gonna start to run a YouTube channel or whatever. You usually daydream about memories of real places or fantasies of new worlds. Neither, I guess. I mean, memories of real places, yeah, I guess. Sometimes I'm nostalgic. I like to think about pleasant things that I've experienced or pleasant places that I've been in. On the other hand, I don't really get the fantasies of new worlds. Is it like this, this black and white thing where you either reminisce on real places or you make up new worlds. You're new Tolkien. What the hell? I mean, can't you maybe fantasize about like more everyday things or like more normal shit? Does it have to be a new world? Does it have to be Avatar? Um, yeah, I mean, I daydream if I catch myself daydreaming, it's not really on memories. Like I said, I am nostalgic. I tend to have these moments where I just, I get the feels, so to say, about experiences in the past and so on. But uh, on the other hand, if I daydream, mostly it's about stuff in the future, or kind of maybe not maybe abstract is the wrong word, but I would say stuff like made up conversations with whatever, thinking through stuff that I've uh, recently discovered or read about, or it's just kind of if I daydream most of the time, I guess it's um, internalizing knowledge of some sort or thinking through things a bit deeper, um, to really get the hang of what's going on. So yeah, sometimes I even kind of do it like semi-automatically. Once my sister, um, when I was still going to church, I went with my sister, and there were these uh, not chairs, I'm not sure what you call them, like those long benches. There were like these two benches parallel to each other, and me and my sister, or my sister and I, were sitting on one side, and on the other side there was a group of girls around my age, or maybe I don't know, slightly younger. And that was during my, I think, high school years. And at some point I got bored with the mass, and I started. I don't remember what I was thinking about. It was just another kind of daydream, thinking about stuff. Let's call it. I just think about stuff most of my life, um, and at some point my sister like elbows me, and I'm like, what? And she's like, like, stop staring, they're laughing at you. And then I realize, because when I start to think about stuff, I like zone out. It's like I never know, actually, because then it's too late, but I never know whether I'm cross-eyed or whether I just lose focus. I think I just lose focus. I stare into the distance, but then I had I was tilting my head a bit, so I was kind of looking at their legs, although not at their legs. I was actually in another place completely. I didn't see anything that had to do with reality. I was, visually I was somewhere else, but apparently my eyes were staring at their legs, and they were like giggling and stuff, and my sister was like, stop it. So yeah, then I got embarrassed, and yeah, what can you do? I'm gonna go with memories of real places, because maybe although it's not a memory, normally most of it has to do with real world stuff. You reflect more often on your short-term goals or long-term goals. Yeah, definitely short-term goals. Like I said, I do have some idea of what I would like in life, but that changes frequently. When I was kind of into self-help at one moment in time, like a year or two ago, I did every half a year or so or more, I did this, every book has its own way of making you do that kind of goal slash achievement list and how you plan it out and what you want to do. Seven Habits of Highly Effective People tells you otherwise, tells you something else. Tim Ferriss's um, 4 Hour Work Week uh, makes you do a different kind of list. The magic of thinking big is different too. So, I made those lists as I was reading those books, but every single one of them was different, was completely different. It had different kinds of goals depending on what I guess the methodology was, and what the book kind of told you to focus on. So I guess you kind of bias your choices based on that in some way. Uh, on the other hand, I do have a lot of short-term goals, things that I want to really quickly get good at. Because if I do something, if I start to do something, which I do uh, every 2 3 months or so, you can ask me at different times of the year, like every season, let's say, and I'll give you different answers on what I'm currently doing, what my hobbies are. So if you ask me, maybe half a year ago it would be psychology. Now it's calligraphy, whatever. Um, Thus, the the samue. This isn't a bathrobe. Just if you thought this is a bathrobe, it isn't. It's a so-called samue. It's a Japanese monk work robe, which has like normal pants, and it has this uh, kind of kimono. Well, not kimono. Like, it's basically almost like a blue karate gi. So like if you see karate guys or judo guys, you know, that's almost the same thing. But instead it's blue, navy. Okay, so yeah, short-term goals. It takes a lot to offend you. Depends. I have insecurities. I think everybody has. If not, well, fuck, I envy you, really. I mean, you must be a cup of confidence. I try to have confidence. I try to hide, but then as it normally goes, when you try to compensate or hide uh, insecurities, then you kind of overcompensate, and then you just turn out to be a jackass or something, whatever you're trying to hide. And that happens. That happens. I mean, if somebody touches on a weak point of mine that I'm kind of insecure about, then yeah, I'll get defensive. But otherwise, yeah, whatever. I mean, it's just an opinion. I could, I could do the same thing about the insecurity stuff, but I don't think it's really that easy, since um, when you have an insecurity, you treat it somewhat differently than your any kind of other aspect of your personality or looks. So I think it's the same thing with phobias and anxiety. Like it's irrational by definition. So an insecurity is also, I think, by definition irrational. There's no reason for anybody to be insecure about something, yet people are. People have anxieties, and people have phobias. If one person will be able to keep a spider on a live tarantula on their hand, and another will get stiff. uh, I phrased that so wrong. Sorry. Another people will just kind of freeze, get paralyzed or whatever, just from seeing one. And I've seen that happen. I've seen both. My wife is a tarantula handler. Well, maybe handler is not the right word. I guess. Well, yeah. She keeps tarantulas. It's like her hobby. And we had a friend over, and she was like, they're really, and it wasn't a live tarantula, mind you. It's because it's actually unsafe for the tarantulas to handle tarantulas, like, keep them on your hand or let them walk over you. It's unsafe for them. And that's her rationale of not letting people pick them up or take them out of their storages. But yeah, on the other hand, she did have a molt, what is it called? The skin that any kind of spider or snake sheds. And she did have that. And we had a friend over, and she's like, just take it into your hand and you'll see. And I have to praise that friend on his courage, because he was completely paralyzed. Like you could just, move him, like tip him over like that, I guess, basically. He was so tense when he had his hand out. You could see his tendons here. He was completely, stressed out. But he went through with it, and then it was like, oh, it's not that bad, but let's not ever do that again. So, okay, it doesn't take a lot to offend. Sorry, it takes a lot to offend. Yeah, I mean, otherwise, insecurities aside, I don't really care. Unless you take an insecurity as a no answer. And an insecurity meaning that it doesn't take a lot to offend me, then whatever, you be the judge. Last question, maybe. Second time. You'd rather follow an exercise program that is unregulated or structured and documented? Okay. Rationally speaking, an unregulated exercise program, if you have a goal in mind, will never get you there. It's one experience of based on my own. That's based on my own experience, and that's based on experience of several other guys that and girls that went through it. And it's like, if you don't measure, if you don't regulate, if you don't structure your diet, your exercise program, or whatever you do to achieve a specific goal, be that running a marathon, getting more muscular, whatever, swimming 1K or something, then you won't be able to achieve, because you don't know whether you're making progress or not. It's how are you supposed to know? Just by feel? Come on. I mean, if even I would treat even just mentally noting, for example, how many pools you've swam back and forth or something, pool lengths. I would treat that also as being somewhat structured, because you do keep a mental note of how far you've gone and what your goal is and what your progress is. So, you don't have to have an archive, but you do have at least one point back of documentation, or your personal record, or whatever it is. Uh, so yeah, I would rather follow an exercise program that is that is structured and documented, due to the simple fact that I do have a goal in mind. I do know what I want to achieve and how I want to look like. Um, so I think an unregulated program wouldn't help me achieve that. If it's just for fun, to be healthy or something, well, yeah, you know. But otherwise, I would really like to go through with the structure, even though I don't really like it. But if somebody does it for me, then it's doable. It's very doable. Um, I use an app that structures my whole workout regime. Basically, it plans out the days, it plans out the exercises, it has progressive overload, everything. It's really nice, and you kind of tailor it to yourself and to your postural problems and your kind of weaknesses, so it kind of compensates for those, or it makes you work on those areas a bit more. And that's also needed. Otherwise, you also know whether you're making any progress or not. So yeah, structured. More questions. Question 31. I still don't know. Let me ask 5 more questions. Oh, okay. I'm starting to lose focus. See, guys, when when the phone rings, you tend to be quick to react or defer to others first. Yeah, this is a difficult question in times where everybody has a cell phone, and I'll I'll just go with what I acted like when, like home or landlines, yeah, landlines, when those were still popular and like the main mode of telecommunication. I would defer to others first. I would always wait out until the last moment to pick up the phone. I mean, if somebody calls me on my cell phone, then I know it's for me. So what point it is? What am I gonna throw it to my wife? Hey, you take it. I'm like, I don't take phones from other people too, even if they ask me. I'm like, hey, they're calling to you. What are they gonna? What's their thought process gonna be if they hear somebody else's voice through the phone, even if it's for example my wife's, or in her case mine. I mean, it's just nonsense. Sometimes you can do it to fuck with someone, but but otherwise, yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But that said, I did defer to others if it was on a landline. On vacation, do you plan ahead or just go? I do minimal planning, as in either uh, if it's easy enough. I don't like to go through with the planning. I mean, Jesus, it's so boring. It's, you have to think about transport. You have to think about how long it'll take you to get from point A to point B to C to D to E and so on. And then you never have you're never sure whether it's actually going to be like that. There's something that you didn't know that a local person will tell you to visit, and it'll take you another half a day, and then your whole plan is screwed out the window. There's no point in making like train reservations or something beforehand, because, well, like I said, if you make a train reservation for that in that hour, you have two choices: either miss the train, and that all doesn't always give you the or rather, it rarely ever gives you the ability to get a refund. On the other hand, your other option is to miss whatever you wanted to see. And if that was something particularly interesting that, for example, maybe it was um, some kind of special occasion or a special event. Sometimes museums have exhibitions or something like that that don't really happen year round, or happen when, maybe once in that museum's operating lifetime. And you really don't want to miss it. But you know there you go. So I don't really like to, I swear this happens. I swing my arms a lot sometimes, and then I just, I tend to spill drinks too, and break glasses or dishes. Just, it's not often, but once a year or at least. What kind of measure is that? Once a year? No, I don't keep a diary. On vacation, do you? So yeah, I would just go. I think it's more towards just go than plan ahead. And then it's like we'll see what's there, and then make a plan, like a very short-term plan, like for the next day or for the next 2 days, and see where we go for there. Whether we should book a ticket for, for 2 days ahead or 3 days ahead, or give, some kind of leeway. Are you happier when a decision is made or leaving your options open? Yeah, definitely. Like I just said, leaving my options open. Making a decision for me is hell. I usually rely on others to make decisions, due to either because I really don't care. People think that when I say I don't care, or whichever, people think that I'm trying to be like, or that I don't like both options, for example, and that I'm being you know I'm fussed or something. But most of the time it's really just, yeah, whatever. um Or the other reason would be that it's difficult for me. Yeah, that's an interesting thing, I think. It's difficult for me sometimes um, to make a decision due to two other subpoints. Either I don't know how people affected by that decision would respond to that decision, and I don't really feel like getting heat, or yeah, I'm if somebody's gonna be if somebody's gonna uh, have some kind of problems with whatever decision I take, I'm like, well, then you take that decision. If I know somebody might. Um, and the second is that I know somebody will not like what my decision would be, or my internal decision would it conflicts with what I know they would like. So if, for example, I would like to go to place A, and I'm left to decide, but I know person said whoever wants to go to place B, then I can't really make a decision, since I'd rather just go with whatever he wants or she wants. But at the same time, I would like to voice my interest in going to place A. So it's kind of a toughie. So the easiest way out is to defer decisions to others and in the last maybe moment. And also, it's hard to make a decision if I lack like on the spot, if we're especially if it's like a verbal decision, like we're talking actively, and some kind of suggestion goes out there, or some kind of proposition, and it's like yeah, a quick, like, what's it called, I don't know, but yeah, it's like a fastball. You really don't have a lot of time, since, for example, it's somebody suggests going somewhere and it's like, are you in? And I'm like, well, yeah, but what's there? What's the place like? Will I like it? Would I, how long will we be there? I know there's other factors that I should base that decision on. Maybe somebody doesn't know that I'm going to be there, and I have no way to quickly communicate, or for example, whatever. It's like too too little info at that moment to make a decision. If somebody creates an event and I have a week to decide, that's great. I can decide last day, and until that day, I can just see and try to scope out what I'll be doing and what people will be doing, and whether I'll have time, or whether there's something more interesting to do at that time. Because yeah, uh, I try to be fair or something, but if there's going to be something three times more interesting than that event, I'm gonna go there. I'm not gonna sacrifice myself. Sorry. So yeah, leaving my options open. You prefer video games that reward you for playing efficiently or creatively? I think efficiently. I I don't really think I like games that put focus on creativity. Maybe because I'm not that creative of a person myself. I'm more for efficiency. So I can go with speed playing, or records, or something like that, or and that can sometimes be creative in its own way. It can even be somewhat beautiful. If Yeah, I would say it can be beautiful. Like, have you seen a Super Mario speed run? Damn, I mean, that's just right. So yeah, efficiently. You maintain a consistent routine. No way in hell. You have a difficulty saying no to people. Yes, I actually do. I mean, um, it also depends. I try to be assertive, but sometimes you don't want to let people down, and sometimes you just know that people are counting on you, uh, and when you say no, it'll kind of ruin some part of the relationship, or whatever kind of relationship you have with a given person. Um, so sometimes I do have difficulty saying no, because I just know. that the right answer is yes, and any kind of other answer is at least unexpected, and at worst is will bring bad karma. Disclaimer: I do not believe in karma, but it's an efficient kind of way to to uh, to verbalize what I think would happen. So then it's always, sometimes not all people are kind of uh, are like this, but sometimes you do, and those are toxic people. Get them out of your life. uh, you There are people, or sometimes you have to be dependent on them, like coworkers or bosses or whatever, and you know that if you say no, there will be petty revenge. Like there will be um, talking like behind your back, or in the best case, or you'll have you're gonna be getting shit for whatever you've done, or why you said no, or you know it's just sometimes it's just not worth it. So I have difficulty saying no to people. Yeah, I think you often point out the irrationality in people's ideas. Oh yes, with pleasure. I mean, okay, maybe not with pleasure. I'm not Sheldon, but I do point out the irrationality. Sometimes I have this feeling in the back of my head, like alarm bells ringing. You shouldn't be doing this. Like, sometimes it hurts people, or I've gotten a response like this, like that. People don't seem to differentiate the between your idea is stupid and you're stupid, and they equate those two. It's false association. But sometimes I say that idea is completely dumb. I mean, why would you even, you know? And then, oh, so you're saying I'm stupid? Is that right? Like, well, then let's see what you can say, genius, or whatever, or yeah. Or sometimes when I nitpick on people's words, like was mentioned earlier, I try to be exact, and then sometimes people get offended by that. Like I'm not a mm, I'm not an erudite like you are, or whatever. Yeah, that was very erudite of me to just forget that word, but you know what I mean, yeah, right? It's sometimes people get offended by these things. I guess that might be um, conscious weak spots of their own, I guess. So maybe if somebody um, has an issue with that, maybe they just you know overreact like I do sometimes. I understand, but yeah. Other Either way, I do point out the irrationality in people's ideas. If I catch it, I tend to catch it, but not always. Sometimes it's very well feel like hidden. Most um, when I have arguments with mostly vegans and religious people, they sometimes, like the better ones, like the pros, they tend to use logical fallacies that are very hard to detect if you don't know about them. Um, and sometimes it's just like it doesn't sound right, but you can't quite put your finger on what where the problem is. Why doesn't it sound right? And that doesn't make sense, but you don't know why, and you can't kind of point that out, and you have to just continue, and that makes it even worse, because you have to kind of accept what they've just said, because you can't just say, oh, that doesn't make sense. Why? I don't know, it just doesn't feel right. No, you can't do that. So you have to kind of base your further conversation on whatever bullshit was just spewed. Okay. You sometimes have difficulty explaining feelings. Yes, I do. I don't always have a name for whatever I'm feeling. I don't really get the differences between minor subtle, like, nuances in feelings, like irritated, annoyed, angered, upset. What the hell? Those I mean, okay, maybe those are like different different levels on a spectrum, maybe. But yeah, I I guess I try to go with that. But sometimes it's not always. I may be I may be thinking I'm angry about something, but really I'm sad, or the other way around. I don't know. It's it's hard. I can't think of an example off the top of my head right now, but I yeah, later on it was when I really thought things through. It turned out that it was a different feeling than I initially had thought. Even though I don't really think much of what I'm feeling. It's not like, every kind of emotion that comes to me, I go like, what am I feeling like right now? Is it this? Is it a butterfly or whatever? No, I don't do that. It's like it's just there. It is. Yeah, it is, period. I do have a difficulty explaining feelings. You strive to always be just or merciful. Just. I It depends, like a lot of things. It depends. But I think I tend to be just. So if there's two if there's two people with the same exact circumstances and the same, maybe just in that way, let's say. It can be somewhere in between, I guess. If there's two people with the exact same circumstances and the exact same actions, I mean, I know that's impossible, but let's just say hypothetically, and one of them, for example, is a family member and the other one is a stranger. I don't think um, I would be biased, or rather, I don't think I would go light on the family member, for example, just because they're a family member. So in that way, I'm just. On the other hand, if it's a single person and, for example, what they've done, it's kind of my internal, I guess, value system or whatever. Um, if I don't see that they've done something really, really, really horrifying, like killed a person or something, or like those really bad things people can do, uh, I would forgive at least, at least one time. I think I would I think I'm a second chance giver in that way, that I do give a second chance unless it's convenient for me not to give a second chance. Then because sometimes that might happen. You know, sometimes you're just waiting for an occasion for someone to trip up, and that's kind of maybe hideous of me, but it's I don't think I'm the only one that kind of experiences that train of thought. Anyways, uh, most of the times I do give second chances, and then it's like, okay, this was your chance to learn, and unless it was something horrific, of course, you don't give second chances to rapists or murderers. It's no, you know. Um, Although, on the other hand, maybe I mean those guys can learn too, right? I don't think the case is that once a murderer, always a murderer, or once a rapist, always a rapist. Perhaps I should have to think through that once more. Then, even more merciful, yeah. Second chance it is, but you won't get a third chance. If you screw up again, if you screw up in different ways, then yes, you might be able to get more chances, unless of course you're constantly failing, like in at your job or something, and every level, every error you make, or every screw up you make, just like, let's say, amounts to the fact that, for example, you're incompetent, then that I treat it kind of like the same thing. So if you make different errors, but on within the same topic, that, for example, you should be competent, and then you're out. I mean, sorry, but I don't want to work with you. or partner up with you or whatever, if you're going to be like doing stupid shit in stuff that you should be doing right by now. But on the other hand, if it's yeah, like different ways of screwing up, and not really maybe something that other people rely on, or pay you for something, then I you get you get one chance, or rather you get a second chance for every screw up that's different to other screw ups. So you could do the same thing twice, but if the reason you screwed up or the way you screwed up was different, that might be reason to give a third or fourth or so on chance, because there's a lot of ways to screw up, and sometimes there's only one way to get it right, or the other way, but most of the time it's the first. So sometimes you just can't expect someone to get it right the first time or the second or third time. It's life. So I strive to be merciful. Maybe not always, but more. Lying up at night. Are you remembering the events of the day or being struck with brand new ideas? I don't lie up at night. I'm sleepy. I'm tired. I'm under rested. Yeah, seriously. But do I remember the events of the day, or am I struck? I don't think I think up brand new ideas. Maybe I'll remember some events, or I do the same thing that I was doing daydreaming. I mean, isn't that really the same? I mean, at night, when you lie up at night, don't you just do the same thing you would do when you're daydreaming? Doesn't that amount to the same kind of activity? You just think of stuff. So I went with remembering real-time events or something like that. So I'm gonna go with remembering the events of the day, whatever that means. Okay, so my results are 27% ISTP, 14% ESFJ, 14%, the same, INTP, 13% ISFP, and 7% ESTJ. All right, guys, this has been a hell of a long video. I'm sorry to have drawn it out so long. This is actually like a full feature Marvel movie now, except it's much less marvelous. But if any of you got this far, or even if you had a type in mind before that, just let me know. Thanks.